I don't know if you hold this idea or not, but it's apparently pretty common that creators think that if I publish one video and it just tanks, then YouTube's going to penalize my next video. Or if I've had a whole series of videos that aren't performing well, then YouTube's going to learn that, my channel just has this bad reputation and it's not, my future videos aren't going to perform. I know it's a very common question. We're going to talk about what's actually happening there and what you can do about it on your channel. How does the performance of some content on your channel affect and impact the performance of other content on your channel? And we have lots of other questions we're going to dive into, voicemail messages that you guys have left for us about using UpWork to grow your team, about updating metadata on previous videos. Is it okay to change titles, thumbnails, things, and what impact should we expect if we do that? Which videos should we do that on and not do that on? Plus voiceover tips. And we've got a story from a guy named Gary about how he doubled his YouTube channel by making half the number of videos that he used to make. We're going to talk a little bit about that, as well as wrapping up with our power tip that we do every week, something practical you can use in your very next video to grow your channel. All of that and a lot more coming up in this episode.
Hey, welcome to the Video Creators Podcast. You know how you put a lot of time and energy into your YouTube channel for not nearly enough growth? Yeah, we get it. We're here today to help you change that. If you're trying to accelerate your channel's momentum, become more profitable, and change the lives of more people than ever before, today's episode will help you move forward with confidence. So far, our team is responsible for helping clients generate over 20 billion views on YouTube. And now to help you, here's the Video Creators team.
Hello, creators. How are you guys? It's great to see you again for another Video Creators Podcast episode like we do here usually every Monday, but I've missed a few Mondays because I'm in charge of podcasts again. You don't want me in charge. So we've missed a few. We've been late, but we're here. We're recording now. Looking forward to talking to you on what we presume is a Monday for you. I'm joined here with Ingrid, who's one of the YouTube strategists on our team here, as well as Sam, who is also a YouTube strategist on our team. And we're all three of us are going to dive into this stuff with you today. We're really excited to talk about this stuff. But I think you guys may have not met Sam yet, right? Sam, is this your first time being introduced to the audience or Pod Squad as people? Yeah, I know. I had to go there. I'm sorry. Ingrid.
It's got to be the audience.
I had a consultation today and somebody was very strong audience. And I was like, all right, we got another one.
Strong audience people in sessions too. I think there's something to it. I know the professional people don't like the potty sound in it, but the non-professional people do. So
I like audience.
Well, Caitlin, who has to write these up, my personal assistant who writes these up into emails and on YouTube and everything, she's hardcore in the Pod Squad base. So even on our own team, we're divided. But anyway, Sam, first time here. Tell us a little about yourself and what you do here at Video Creators.
Yeah. So I'm one of the strategists, Tim, like you said. I also live in the Video Labs space. So shout out to the Video Labs fam who's watching the podcast today. So really enjoy being in there as well. And yeah, I've been here, about 3 months so far. So really been enjoying a lot of this so far. So excited to be on the podcast. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Live in Florida, Orlando area, right? With
wife
about
and
20 dog Oakley.
Yeah, you probably just saw Oakley walking by if you're watching the episode today. But Central Florida, we're about 20 minutes from Disney. I've lived here pretty much my whole life. So, we're trying to survive through the summer. We've got, a couple more months till we maybe get a couple days of cool weather, and then we're going to be back to super hot, hot for a while.
That's like what, November?
Yeah, maybe November, December, maybe Christmas Day. Sometimes we get a day or two where it's cold and then right back to the heat. So,
well, fun fact about Sam, guys, is that his wife worked for us for how many years? 3 years?
I think
4 years?
3. Yeah, three and a half.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. She started off as my personal assistant and then became our customer support person as well, and then became our producer. And I feel the pain of her not being our producer anymore. My goodness. It's like once I took over her role again, I'm like, oh man, she was doing a lot. And so we hired Sam, her husband. We're like, we're going to get a Wittick either way. If it's not,
now you're stuck with me.
So it's great to have you. Yeah. And Ingrid, tell us a little bit about yourself for people who might not be familiar with you. I know you've been here a few times, but not everybody listens to every episode.
Yeah,
So what do
so
you
my
create?
name is Ingrid, and I've been, with video creators now, officially, I guess, like a little over a year and a half, and part of the Podians, much longer, of course, and part of the community. I am a creator myself and live in North Carolina with my husband. No dog. But yeah, it's just been the summer. We've just been kicking it, relaxing. That's kind of like what my vibe is right now.
That's great.
Yep.
Yeah, and for me, a quick catch up with you guys is, we've been doing so many interview episodes lately that we haven't had a chance to like catch up really. But basically, what's happening here, the big story in the Schmoyer foyer, as we call it,
Wow, I haven't
is
heard that in a while.
yeah, Schmoyer foyer is. I was actually an episode. A listener tweeted me, and they're like, "Dude, it's right there in front of you, Schmoyer foyer. Use it." I'm like, "Oh yeah." But yeah, so long story short, our neighbor's dogs got out in the middle of the night, came over and killed all our chickens. And so we lost all our chickens. And thankfully, our meat chickens were already in the freezer. So they were fine. But, well, depends how they got it. They were fine for us. But so that was a big mess. But out of that, we now got a puppy, an English Shepherd, good old farm dog. It's going to help protect our livestock because we're getting sheep next year and thinking about goats and things too. And just this morning, I picked up another batch of chicks that we're going to raise into new chickens to give us eggs and stuff again. So, and they do way more than eggs. They till our gardens, they eat all the bugs and the weeds, and they scratch they do all our garden work for us, and they fertilize it while they do that, which is awesome. So less work for us, and we get eggs out of the deal.
It's a bonus.
It's a
So
win-win.
yeah, I know I'm like the only one who gets excited about that kind of thing, but yeah.
I get
So
sad when you process your chickens.
yeah. Well, if you eat chickens, someone process it, and this is definitely the most humane, healthy way to do it for sure. But yeah, so that's what's going on here. Kids are loving playing with a new puppy, and they're taking responsibility for it, which is great. And all the sadness has turned into joy. Good transformation
That's a
story.
good thing. That is a good transformation story.
For this week's Creator Spotlight, I want to introduce you to Gary. He has a YouTube channel called Tips for Travelers, and he came to us when we first became a client. He's like, guys, I got a successful channel. It's already doing really well. I just know that there's more potential here that I'm not tapping into. And so he actually worked with Ingrid and worked to grow his channel, and he doubled his subscribers by doing half the number of videos that he was doing before. Here's Gary to tell us a little bit about that experience.
I decided to work with video creators because I had a successful channel and I wanted to work out how to take it to the next level. Using what I knew, I'd got my channel to a level and I felt the video creators could take to the next level. I'm Gary Bembridge. My channel is Tips for Travelers, and through the video creator process, I was able to halve the number of videos I make, but actually grow my views dramatically. I more than doubled my subscribers, but what's really important is I have a tips channel and I learned how to tell stories, how to show more of myself, how to really engage people, and I have just viewers that are so much more engaged. If you're considering working with video creators, I would really suggest you do, because I not only learned some technical things, but importantly, it was about having more confidence and the skills and the tools to take my channel to the next level.
Ingrid, I know you're the one who worked with Gary. That's a pretty impressive story to double your channel's growth and subscribers and views by making half the number of videos. Can you give us a little bit more insight into what you guys worked on and did together?
Yeah, well, Gary, I remember, he came in through a consultation and then he decided to jump into Video Labs, and he really took everything really seriously and he did all the work. And as you know, those who do the good work brings good reward. And one of the things that he really, really dug into were titles and thumbnails, and really gaining really clear focus in them and making them intriguing. And he really took storytelling in his content to a whole nother level. He flattened out his retention graphs, if I remember, really, really super high retention, whereas before they just always had that constant decline. And then all of a sudden they were just completely flat. And in that whole process, he also started to target suggested content and doing some of the exercises, the homework lessons that you had laid out, Tim. And I believe even one of those videos, he had hundreds of thousands of views immediately. And currently it has like 1.5 million views. I mean, his
Immediate.
content, immediate results in class, and just continued to grow since then. And his content really has been on fire. He has grown so much. He is an expert storyteller, and he makes really great titles and thumbnails. Those are really the biggest takeaways from him. Yeah.
When I hear words like immediately and
Mhm.
doubled and like when I hear those stories and I'm putting myself in the position of someone who's listening, I'm like, why does that always happen to other people and not to me? Right? Well, what would be the thing that you would say, Ingrid? Like, if you want to see those types of results, this is just what you need to do. This is not that we're going to give away his whole strategy or anything, but
Sure.
the principles that you think that someone really needs to focus on.
The biggest thing that I remember with Gary is he was not afraid to get uncomfortable. He wasn't afraid to break everything. And he had a very successful channel, and he is the leader in his niche. So for him to feel that it's okay to get clunky with storytelling, which is what happens when you have kind of like a how-to type channel, and really step into that and then continue to tweak as you go, you're going to see the results. And that's what happened here.
I think that's probably one of the hardest things
It is.
that creators experience, especially those who've already had some sort of success, is letting go of the thing that got them to where they are so they can now grab onto the thing that's going to get them to the next level. And I get it because I feel that myself on our own channel in some ways. I'm like, at least this is predictable. I'm not satisfied with the results, but at least I know what I'm going to get. Whereas if I let go of this and do something completely different and stumble a few times in learning a new skill I need to acquire, then I don't know what's going to happen. And it's especially scary if your livelihood is already dependent on your channel and your business is dependent on it. That feels even more risky. So yeah, that's good. Let go and then grab on to something new. Maybe not all at once, but you could at least start to grab onto new stuff and like, okay, this video is going to be different. The next video is going to be the same. The next video is going to be different, and I see like Dude Perfect does that all the time. They're always trying like new styles, new series, new videos. And that's one of the reasons why they got 60 million subscribers or 80 million, whatever it is now, because they're not still doing the same type of content they did 10 years ago when they started. So
yeah. And I don't think that growth comes from being comfortable at all.
Yeah, I totally agree.
As a general rule of life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, persistence is important also. I think it's easy to make emotionally driven decisions. And if you try something new and the first time you try it, it doesn't really work out, to just be like, well, I'm never going to try telling a story again because that one video didn't do super well. And so, getting a bit of a sample size and actually maybe you try storytelling for the next 10 videos and then you get a sample size and then you can actually look at the data and see like, what do I notice? How can I use the data to make a decision from here? So I think persistence really helps with that too.
Totally. Well, if you guys want to work with us the way Gary did, go to videocreators.com/discovery call, all one word, and you can schedule a 15-minute conversation with someone on our team. Yeah, we'd love to just get into a call with you and just hear your story, hear what you're working on in your channel, what your goals are, what kind of roadblocks you're bumping into, and then just see if there's a way that we can serve you and help you grow and tell you more about that if that's something that would be interesting to you. So videocreators.com/discovery call, go there, book a 15-minute session with us, and we look forward to meeting you and hearing more about your story and your channel. Ingrid, Sam, you guys both ready to jump into some questions, voicemail messages the audience has left?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is going to be fun. Just so you guys know, Sam nor Ingrid have heard any of these yet. I'm putting them on the spot. We're going to roll with it. It just makes it more fun that way.
Just another day.
That's just a Wednesday.
If you have questions that you want to submit for a future episode, there's a link in the show notes where you can do that. It's speakpipe.com/video creators. And just on your phone or computer, whatever, doesn't really matter. Just go to that website and you'll be able to right there in their browser record a voicemail message for us. So let's jump into this first one. I already kind of told a little bit about what this question is about, how one video's performance impacts another video's performance. But let's hear from Harmony here, and then Sam and Ingrid want to hear how you would respond to this.
Hi, Tim. My name's Harmony. I'm a small YouTuber and I'm on your email list. And one thing you said in there really grabbed my attention. You say, if one video does poorly, it is not going to affect your next video. YouTube will not hold back views for your next video if one performs poorly. That's a myth. Yeah, so this is a myth that I believed, and to an extent, I'm having a hard time not believing because it must be a very well-established myth because I feel like I've heard it from many places. So I would love more information about this. I would love if maybe in an upcoming newsletter, you could talk more about this, because this myth, or believing that this is true, really, I think it affects the way I approach video creation in a really negative way. So I would love for it not to be true, but I feel like I need more information. So yeah, I'd love to know how you figured this out, where you got this information, and just to hear you or read you talk more about it would be great. And I'm sure that a lot of other people would want to hear more about this too, because I think, like you said, it is a myth that a lot of people believe, and I think it's going to negatively impact how we approach video creation. So yeah, I would love to hear more about this. Thank you so much, Tim.
How do you guys think that got started? That myth?
I have no idea. No clue.
I feel like creators look at one video and it's like, wow, that's great. And they post the next one and they're coming off of like this emotional high, and the next one tanks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the, or they have one that just tanks, and then the next one does even worse. And they think that, like, man, the algorithm is punishing me. I have to stay on top of my game. Mm-hmm. If I slip for even a second, I'm going to get punished. And YouTube's not going to keep surfacing my videos if my other videos don't perform. Like, why would they promote my next one if my last one didn't work? I've heard this a lot. Have you guys bumped into this question at all?
Ingrid yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So how do you guys respond to this?
So I think it helps to have context. That's probably the biggest first question that I try to investigate, because there's a lot of differences between somebody who is starting a channel for the first time and they're putting out videos and they're trying to grow, versus somebody who, and I think we run into this a bit more with consultations, this question where somebody has been making content for a while, and then they experienced a lot of growth. And then for months and months and months, everything's great. And, I had this one video blew up, and then the next one did great. And the next one did great. And the next one did great. And then they're on this, on this roll where it seems like everything I touch is turning into gold and everything is awesome. But then they start to notice this downward trend, and those questions start to arise of, am I being shadow banned? Like, is YouTube against me? Like, is there something going on? And I can't help but feel like it's on a channel level, something is wrong here, and YouTube is working against me. And I think the context can help, because it's not uncommon to see usually that one video absolutely blew up, and then it had a shelf life of maybe 4 or 5+ months where that video was the one feeding all of these future videos that you kept making. And so really it was, you hit a home run and you got a ton of views that those people just went and watched a bunch more of your content. And so it wasn't necessarily like you had months of this, amazing progress and everything, but it was more you had this great video. And instead of you losing all of this progress, it was more, it's just kind of coming to the end of its life, and we're just kind of getting back to where you were before. So Ingrid, I'm curious if you have any more thoughts to that, but usually when this question comes up, that tends to be what's happening. It's more of, you just hit a couple of home runs and those particular videos are just kind of coming to the end of their shelf life.
Yeah. And it all for me, it always comes back to key viewer signals, right? And the thing that I love about YouTube is I have just as much opportunity as Jimmy Donaldson, Mr. Beast, to hit a home run in every single video. YouTube's, just because one gets massive views doesn't mean that the next one's not going to perform, and vice versa. because I've experienced that myself. I've experienced it with lots of clients. We've experienced it here on the channel. And, it's really all sometimes when things aren't working, right? Can you step back and are you doing things that are different, or are you doing the same thing but expecting different results? Is sometimes where I push back with creators. Because if your thumbnails and titles aren't getting them in, repeating that process isn't going to work the next time. So are you shifting? Are you getting uncomfortable? We talked about that earlier. Are you getting uncomfortable and trying new things and running experiments? That's usually the direction that I take a creator down.
Yeah. The place I get this information from is YouTube. they've said this many times, and I'll put a link in the show notes. I found one of the places they did. This certainly isn't the only place, but it's from Todd, the product manager of search and discovery at YouTube, of the recommendation system. So the guy who's like overseeing how the knobs and dials on the YouTube algorithm are turned, right? And he says it in the video I'll link down below. In fact, what he says, quote, is you get a fresh start every time you upload a new video, end quote. Right. So he says we're looking at each video's performance individually, because there's a lot of times when you upload a video and like you nailed it, kind of like you were saying, Sam, and you got everything right. People loved it. And then the next video, like people just aren't responding to it the same way. And so it doesn't perform as well. And so he emphasizes again in that video down there that it is about viewer signals, what they're watching, not like how did the previous two videos or video perform, and now this one. Now that said, algorithmically, I believe he's correct. However, there still is this phenomenon that people point to where you do one video that tanked really hard for whatever reason, and then the next 2, 3, 4, 5 just seem to perform similarly, no matter how amazing you think the content is. And I think one thing to consider with that phenomenon, because people will be like, well, that's my experience, it must be algorithmic. It might be, and it is actually. But if it's based on viewer signals, then I notice this myself for channels that I watch. If I watch a video from a creator and I'm like, meh, I'm less likely to now click on the next video that comes along. That's not an algorithm problem. That's a viewer problem. It's a content problem, right? So even though YouTube's algorithm doesn't care about, how the previous video performed, your audience might. And they might be now less likely to click into that next video because, you swung and you missed 2 or 3 times in a row. And then they're just a little less likely to click on that on the next one. So I think that for sure can be the case. But if that is the case, then that means that if you hit 1 or 2 out of the park again, like boom, you're right back to where you left off, right? So it's not the algorithm holding you back. It's the quality of the content you're making and how well it elicits positive emotions and reactions and satisfaction and everything like that from your viewers. So that's what I think is going on, to explain what the actual phenomenon is producing. So for our next question here, it's from Laura, has questions about UpWork.
Hi, Tim. My name is Laura. I love your podcast. I was just wondering, I loved this episode, and it actually comes at the perfect time because we are actually starting to hire. And I was just curious, you had mentioned more tips for looking into UpWork. And I don't believe you got into those. I would love to hear more of your tips for using UpWork.
So upwork.com is a site, if you're not familiar, where you can hire contractors, people from around the world who will do contract work for you, and everything from like building a website, designing a logo, managing your email for you, like anything you would contract a person to do. And so I've had good success with UpWork, but I know a lot of people haven't, and I think they're just kind of going through it in a way that just doesn't lead to better results. And so some of the tips if you want to hire a contractor, a personal assistant, an executive assistant, someone to manage your calendar, email, a video editor, a producer, someone to build your website, anything like you're like, hey, just go through this spreadsheet and figure this part out for me. Like anything you want to hire someone, therefore, they make it easy. And so, so I'll give you my process real quick. Is one, I write a job description and I just put that right in Upwork when I'm posting a job. And I usually don't. I usually open. Let me say in the positive sense. I usually open pitching. Here's who we are. This is what our company's all about. This is our missions. What we're passionate about. And then in the middle, I'll put like, and this is the job, the task that we're looking for someone to do. And then I put a few notes at the end about like next steps. Here's how we're going to get in touch. There's a lot of contractors looking for work on Upwork, which is great. But most of them don't seem to read what they're actually applying for. And so you'll get by default, like a lot of dear sir / madam, or even if it's like, hey, Tim, I read it in detail. This is amazing. This is exactly what I love doing. I've done this for other people. And so what I'll do, because I'll like somewhere in the middle, I will just put a little line of like, open your cover letter with how many subscribers I currently have on my YouTube channel. And then, and I don't try to like hide it or whatever. Sometimes I'll put it as a different paragraph. I'm really just looking for like who's actually paying attention to detail here and reading this versus people who are just mass applying. And so if they open their cover letter with how many subscribers I have, I can very easily skim the inbox of all the applications and just archive a whole bunch of them. Like if you get like 300, boom, I can just archive like most of them. I'm less with maybe like 15 at that point. Which is great. I saved a whole lot of work there now. And then some of them will be like, well, you didn't tell us what your YouTube channel URL is. And so I couldn't find, and I'm like, I'm also looking for someone who can do a little bit of troubleshooting. You can Google video creators and find our channel, right? You can Google video or Tim Schmoyer and find us very easily. So those people I kind of eliminate too. So right there, I've eliminated a lot of people who are just kind of going fast and dirty and aren't paying any attention to details. And then after, I'll whittle that list down to about 3 people, sometimes 5 if I just really can't decide. And I don't do interviews or anything. I find that if you interview someone first, you're hiring for the wrong skill, which is how well do they interview and how well do you connect, not necessarily their ability to do this job. So I'll pay all of them to do the exact same trial job or 2, so if they're going to be managing my email, I'll export a copy of my inbox and I'll be like, here you go. It's 50 emails that are in my box right now. I want to see what you would do to reply. Just reply to these best as you can. And I'm looking for how long do they take? How well do they communicate? Do they meet deadlines? How well do they write? How much problem solver they're going to do on their own versus like, are they going to come to me with every little question, which I don't mind necessarily, but there's kind of a limit, like when I did this with Caitlin and Grace, both assistants on our team, both of them went out of their way to like just look at our website and figure a thing or 2 out first and then answered the email. They're not actually sending the email. They're just writing it as like a draft in a document. Right. And so, and then I read them like who's personable, who's representing us well, and how much time did it take them, and things like that. And then based on their performance, actually their ability to actually do the job, then I will get into a conversation with them and talk with them more about it and hear more about what their goals are and what they're hoping to accomplish with their careers, and asking them questions about our core values and just see is this a good fit? Do we for each other? So then after that, as Sam well knows, and Ingrid too, like we'll do a 3-month like introductory period where we'll just be like, all right, like this job's yours. You nailed it. Let's put a date on the calendar, or 3 months from now, we're going to have a conversation about like, is this still working for you? Is this still working for us? And it's not like, you've been bad and now we're going to let you go type thing. It's more of a, like, I've been in a job before that when I took the job, I thought it was going to be different than it actually was. After I got in there, I don't want anyone else to feel stuck. I want there to be a date on the calendar where we can have that conversation and either adjust things on our side, or just find out like this just isn't what they expected and it's not a good fit. Usually what happens is that knowing that there's a date on the calendar and I'm committing to them for at least 3 months, it makes people feel more secure, and it makes people feel like if I don't have to nail it right now, like Tim's expecting me to come back with questions and wanting me to even provide feedback on how to make it better. Because if you just hire someone, like I guarantee you, especially your first time managing someone, they're going to, and you don't have the systems in place yet, they're going to cost you way more time for them to do it than it would for you to do it yourself. And I don't care what the job is. Like anyone you hire, they're not going to free up all your time instantly. There's going to need to be more back and forth in the beginning. And I just tell them up front, like that's expected. Let's give it 3 months. Usually it ends up taking, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 months. And most of that's kind of, if you have good systems and processes in place for them to follow. If they're starting from scratch, then it'll probably take closer to 3 months. But yeah, so we have that kind of like that conversation put on the calendar when they first start for 3 months out, and we get to the 3 months, and so far not a single person has continued, because I kind of feel like I need to make sure that they're happy so they stick around, because I don't want to go through this again, and they want to make sure I'm happy so that they can hopefully keep doing something they love. So what did I miss, guys? Anything else in there? I know neither of you came from UpWork, but
No, I think that's
I
pretty
think that's
pretty
good.
solid. Yeah, I wouldn't have added anything to that. So
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I think it's smart. It's smart to give yourself that time and give somebody else the time too. I think that's smart.
Yeah. Cool. Next question here is about updating metadata. When is it okay, and which data should you avoid, and things like that?
Hey guys, love the podcast. Really helpful. I'm a teacher and I've had a YouTube channel for 6 years. Some of my older videos are pretty popular and they have really old thumbnails that are kind of ugly. So my question is, if I change the thumbnail, is that going to like mess up the algorithm? And are those videos going to tank because I touched the metadata? Let me know. Thanks.
What do you guys say?
That's a common question. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
yeah,
I
Andrew, do you want
always
to
I
jump in?
always tell I always tell creators, don't fix something that's not broken.
Yep.
You know, no matter how ugly that thumbnail is, YouTube has established a pattern and it's clearly giving it good viewer signals. So don't fix something that's not broken for sure. On the flip side of that, though, you 100% can fix something that's not working. And that might be that little, infusion that YouTube needs to find the right audience, especially if it is an older thing that feels a little dated. Like I think of all the thumbnails with all those awful outlines around the people that look so forced.
That was so
I crushed everybody.
Yeah, well, thumbnails go through trends over time.
They do.
And back in like 2000, I don't know, 11, 10,
Yeah.
like those outlines with like
Mhm.
a really bright foreground and dark background, that was
Yeah.
what was working back then.
I
Not
just
anymore
crushed
today.
everybody.
But
I know.
yeah,
I
things
know.
change over 12 years.
I'm kind of glad that I think we're moving away from the like classic shocked YouTuber face thumbnail and like
Yeah.
moving out of that. I'm ready
Yeah.
for that to die.
I think there's something to be said for updating, content that you're like, I know this content's relevant. People ask me about this all the time or something.
Mhm.
Like I would and the video's flat and is not performing like that one. Yeah, change it all day long. Not every day, but how often would you change it? Like once a month, once a week, every 3 months?
I personally think, give first off YouTube an opportunity to surface it to people to collect some data. I mean, I think that when you're changing things on a daily basis, you're not giving yourself an opportunity to actually get anything to make a decision from.
Yeah.
Because we always love to make data-driven decisions and you need data,
Yeah.
so you got to let it sit. You'd be surprised after 30 days what can happen.
I think it's less about time and more about how much traffic is getting. If a
Mhm.
flat video for you is like 10,000 views a month, let's say, I mean, for somebody that's really
Mhm.
great. But for you, if that's flat, then I think you can start getting some good data after, a couple days, maybe a week or so.
Mhm.
But if it's getting like 1,000 views a month, you probably want to give it like a month or two. I don't know. So maybe, what am I saying as I say that out loud? I guess maybe 1,000, couple thousand, several thousand views before you go ahead and switch it.
Yeah,
Or if it's
maybe
not
even
getting that still, then you know it's so at some point if it comes down to time. Yeah.
maybe
And
even
at some
about
point, is
evaluating
that,
your normal
yeah.
and then kind of moving forward from there, like knowing
Mm-hmm.
what is my normal, what's my baseline, and if it deviates, like if I'm getting a lot lower, then that's kind of your,
Yeah.
that you should probably go change that.
And at some point too, what your time is that better spent on creating newer, better content if something's not moving.
Yeah. Yeah. And when it comes to people who are doing this in real time, like I've heard people like when they right after they publish the video, and these are usually pretty massive channels, they're watching their real-time analytics to determine, is this video performing as usual, above average, or below average. And if it's performing below average, they might have only published it 5-10 minutes ago, but they'll swap it out for the next they'll make like 3-4 thumbnails and swap out another thumbnail and see if that one performs better, and keep doing that. Sometimes, several times in the first 24 hours it's been published. I've always had like a little question mark. Like I think the practice makes sense, but the question mark I have above my head that you can't see is like so many notifications are going out though with the older thumbnail. And it's so there's just because you change it immediately doesn't mean that everyone who's coming into that video at that point is clicking on the title or the thumbnail that you think they're seeing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone publishes a video, I get a notification on my phone with a certain title thumbnail, but I don't come back to it till 3 hours later, let's say, and then I see it and tap on it. Well, they're getting traffic from me now, maybe assuming that I'm coming because of the thumbnail they've changed it to during those 3 hours, but that's not necessarily true. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
It totally makes sense.
I think it's like okay data, but I don't think it's good data. I think it's more like pulling triggers emotionally. But on the same time, if you're getting like, I don't know, let's just say 100,000 views an hour, there's probably something in that amount of data that you could make a good judgment call on, like, yeah, I need to change this thumbnail. And you could figure that out in like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whereas someone else might need to take 24 hours to figure that out, So,
and you have to also remember
math.
that's like your audience. That's your real hot audience, right? Those are your subscribers. And if you're doing this, like she was talking about, that this is an older video and then you're changing it up, now it's being surfaced to non-subscribers, right? Versus your hot audience. So I think the real-time data is a lot different for non-subscribers than it is just for subscribers, because subscribers are going to click in anyway because they love you.
Yeah. I don't care what Do Perfect's titles and thumbnails look like. I just click on it when there is one. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Last question here from John about voiceover.
Hey, Tim and Video Creators crew. I have a quick question for you, or a podcast suggestion. I have a hard time sounding natural when I do voiceovers or narrations, and I did a little research on YouTube, and not a lot of good content or resources out there around that. Wanted to know if you had any suggestions for how to sound natural when doing narrations or voiceovers. That would be great to hear your tips and suggestions. Thank you.
I feel so uncomfortable when I do voiceover. Well, Sam, yours was so good. You guys don't know it yet. Sam's got a video coming out on our channel. And I watched the first draft of it, and I'm like, Sam's voice in this video is so soothing. I was like, he's so good at this. Like, Sam, you're doing all our videos now.
We need to do like Video Creators at Night segment, like, welcome.
Just Sam.
Yeah.
And maybe Stephanie making a comeback.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe,
Dream team.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys got any tips for him? Because I'm like, this is not my area of expertise. I'm forceful and driven no matter how I do it.
Yeah. I think
I've done lots of voiceovers. Yeah.
I think,
go ahead, Ingrid.
Yeah, Ingrid, go ahead and jump in.
It's always awkward when it's just you. And so I think it's one of those things where you just have to get your reps in, and the more and more you do it, pretend like you're talking to somebody, and just remember the value that you're giving. Because sometimes when I'm doing like a voiceover and just reading something, I think I get in my own head, right? And that's how I used to do it. And now I start thinking about the person a little bit more. Who's my audience? And when you're really, really clear on who your audience is, it makes it easier to craft content no matter what you're doing, whether it's voiceover or recording to a camera. So that would be my first thing.
Yeah, that was pretty much exactly where I was going to, as far as like, it may sound a little bit cheesy, but I would even, if it would help, when you identify your target audience and get specific with who this person is, like maybe even just go find a stock image where you can kind of just fit that to the personality. Like, let's say if your target audience that you're going after, you give them a name, let's say like their name is Nick, and then you go look through some, stock photos and find somebody who looks like a Nick and actually, print out the photo and put them on your camera. Or behind your camera. And so it might feel a little bit more like, instead of me just clicking record and I'm just talking to my webcam and it's just me and I feel uncomfortable, if you see a photo of your target audience where you can actually talk to this real person who's going to get value from what you're talking about, it probably is going to help a lot knowing you're talking to a real person, and just seeing, even if it's a little cutout person on the other side of your screen, knowing that you're talking to a real person might help kind of with your inflections and feeling more natural.
I feel like that's more awkward.
Really?
Talking to a camera. Someone walks in the room while you're doing that and you're talking to like a cutout. People are like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. Maybe it depends on the size of the cutout too. If you have like a
there you go.
life-size cardboard cutout, maybe that would be more weird.
Like, okay, Taylor Swift is your target audience. All right.
Yeah. Oh, Michael Jordan's back in the room again. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I went to John. I went to someone. Sorry, I just gonna picture my wife walking in on me talking to a photo. So you're like, wow, therapy is really working for you. So this guy, I went out to a friend of mine who does radio. His name's Bill Scott, and he's actually the same guy who does our intro here for video creators that you just heard a little bit ago. And the reason I use him, one, because he's a friend, but two, he's actually the guy that's responsible for my wife and I meeting. So to have him do these intros is kind of like a little sentimental for me. It's kind of cool to have him have his voice as a part of this, because he didn't bring us together, but we met through his program. So anyway, he's just a friend. I asked him, like, hey, you do radio stuff for a living. What voiceover tips do you have? And here's what Bill had to share.
That is really a good question, and a lot of people have a hard time with that, especially this day and age. The more natural you sound, the better chance is you're going to get work. What often helps, especially radio guys, is to take off your headphones and don't listen to yourself. A lot of people do that in radio and voiceover. I have in-ears that I use, but there are times I'm starting to now just take off my headphones or my in-ears monitors, and so it comes out more natural. So that's what I would encourage you to do if you're listening with your earphones on while you're recording. Take them off, and I think you'll get a more natural sound. Hopefully that helps. If not, then you didn't hear it from me.
Yeah, I think what he's saying is kind of what you two are both saying, is like, just get into a more natural posture. If you're feeling uncomfortable, I think that would certainly help make it better than the more rigid script reading type of thing that sometimes comes across, which is hard to make that sound natural. So
yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's funny that you say that, because one of my last jobs, a coworker of mine, part of his job was making a lot of cold calls. And so he would get really, really anxious. It was the kind of thing, right before you click record or right before you, make the call, press the green button, you get super nervous. And so he would have what he called his feel goods. And so it was like his favorite soda. He'd light a candle, like his favorite scent. He had a couple other things too on his desk, and would just clear his workspace off and just make it really clean. But it's the kind of thing where he got his feel goods and like set up the environment around him as well, just to feel super comfortable. So that might be helpful advice as well.
There's other beverages besides soda that might help better with that type of thing too.
Water.
Oh, water. Okay. That's not what I was thinking.
Water.
I thought that's where you were going with that, Sam. He's like, candles, favorite beverage, soda. I'm like, oh, I thought you said when the reduce anxiety.
Right.
There we go. We're going to end on that note right there. For this week's power tip, I want to leave you with something that you can use, and this is going to be more a feature that you can potentially sign up for. Over the past few months, YouTube has been rolling out a lot of updates to its YouTube video player to make it easier for you to navigate the content that you're watching. So a few of those updates to the YouTube video player are, and I'll give you a link at the end where you can opt in to get some of these updates and try them out yourself, is one, you can now easily find and watch the most frequently played parts of a video. It's on desktop and mobile. Maybe you've seen that already. You can hover over the play bar and kind of see like an audience retention graph type of thing. It's not an audience retention graph, but you can see where most people are engaging and watching the most in the content. Number two, video chapters are now available on smart TVs and gaming consoles. If you're not familiar with what those are, video chapters let you just jump ahead to a predefined period of time inside the content. We use it for these episodes on YouTube all the time for people to be like, all right, next question. You know, they just want to jump to the next section of a longer piece of content. Number three, you can now put an individual video on endless repeat. If that's like you got your favorite song and you just want to wear it out, you can put it on endless repeat in the loop video setting. Number four, on mobile, there's now an improved full screen mode with an information panel and quick action buttons easily accessible, like a like or a dislike, comment, share, add video to a playlist, those types of things. So now if you just tap, those things just kind of appear again, and you can take those actions while watching in full screen mode. And then finally, number five, this is the thing I think you guys should be interested in. If you're a YouTube Premium customer, you can now test a lot of new features that they're currently working on, like skipping to a specific moment in a video. You can go to youtube.com/new and opt in there and start playing with some of the new things that have yet to be rolled out, but that they're testing with. So now that I say that, I guess that's not as much like help you in your very next video, but it's more of like a help you understand the direction YouTube is going. So that will help inform your content strategy going forward. So you can stay on top of some of that stuff, or just wait for us to tell you about it later. So one of those two things. So links to more information about all those tips and the updates to the video player are down in the show notes, as well as a link to our video creators on Volley space. If you want to talk with us, you want to ask questions, you want to jump in and extend some of this conversation that we've had here today. I know it's mostly primarily a one-way conversation, but we prefer two-way. So you can go to videocreators.com/volley, and there's like 700, 800 some creators in there right now. And it's just really fun video chat that we get to have and interact over. So go check it out. We'll see you over there. And thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys again next week in another Video Creators Podcast episode. See you guys then.